Billionaire boss pretends to sleep to test his black maid's kid, freezes at what she does. He thought it was just another test of loyalty. A billionaire too powerful to be questioned decided to play a cruel game. While pretending to sleep, he left his child alone with the one person society often judged the harshest, his black maid. To him, it was a chance to confirm his suspicions, to see if prejudice had been right all along. But what he never expected was the truth that unfolded in those quiet moments. Because what she did next would leave him frozen, and it will leave you questioning everything. By all appearances, his world was perfect. The billionaire lived in a sprawling mansion where marble floors gleamed, chandeliers sparkled, and silence was the unspoken rule. He was a man who measured everything: profits, investments, even the people around him. To him, trust was a currency, and he rarely gave it away, especially not to those he believed were beneath him. In that same house, moving quietly from room to room, worked the maid. She was a black woman who carried herself with dignity despite the weight of judgment she felt every day. For her, the job was more than cleaning floors or serving meals. It was survival, a chance to give her child a better future. She endured the long hours, the whispers of suspicion, the feeling of always being watched. Because in this world, one mistake could cost her everything. Then there was the child, the billionaire's pride, the one thing in his life he couldn't control with money. Innocent, trusting, and curious, the child often found comfort in the maid's gentle presence. She offered what the mansion never could: warmth. But warmth was not what the billionaire saw. To him, kindness could be a mask, a trick waiting to be revealed. And so, behind his sharp eyes and calculating silence, he planned something: an experiment, a test. He wanted to know whether the maid's care was genuine or whether his prejudice had been right all along. What none of them knew was that the test he created would uncover more than loyalty. It would expose truths he wasn't prepared to face, truths that would shake the foundation of everything he thought he knew. The day of the test came without warning. The mansion was unusually quiet, the air heavy with an anticipation no one could name. The billionaire carried himself with his usual air of control. But behind that calm exterior, he had already set his plan into motion. He would retreat to his room, pretend to rest, and leave the maid alone with his most precious possession: his child. To him, this was no simple moment of trust. It was a chance to confirm his suspicion, to catch her in the act of being something other than what she claimed to be. In his mind, kindness from someone like her had to be a disguise, a mask hiding greed or betrayal. He wanted proof. The maid, of course, knew nothing of this. For her, the morning began like countless others: dusting, folding, sweeping, all while the child trailed behind her with innocent questions and laughter. She smiled, grateful for those moments, even if she knew eyes were always watching. But she never imagined that today, every gesture she made, every breath she took, was being judged by a man lying still in a bed upstairs, pretending to sleep. As she guided the child through the halls, the pressure weighed on her. One slip of the hand, one wrong move, and her entire life could collapse. She had learned long ago that in houses like this, mistakes weren't forgiven. They were remembered, exaggerated, and used against you. The billionaire listened from his room, straining for sounds, waiting for something to betray her. Minutes felt like hours as he imagined possibilities. Would she steal? Would she lash out? Would she reveal her true self when she thought no one was watching? Each thought fed his prejudice, and each second deepened his certainty that the test would prove him right. Downstairs, the maid faced her own invisible trial. When the child spilled a cup of juice on the white carpet, her heart pounded. She cleaned quickly, afraid of how it would be seen. When the child asked for a story, she hesitated, knowing even her words could be twisted against her. And yet, she carried on, steady, patient, gentle, never suspecting that every moment was a piece of evidence being gathered in silence. Time stretched, tension thickened. The billionaire's eyes remained closed, his breathing even, but his mind raced. Any second, he thought, the truth would reveal itself. And when it did, he would finally know what kind of woman he had let into his home. But what came next was nothing he had prepared for. At first, nothing seemed unusual. The child played with scattered toys, laughter echoing faintly through the mansion's grand halls. The maid sat beside them, her hands steady, her voice soft and reassuring. From the upstairs room, the billionaire listened, waiting, hoping for the moment her mask would slip. But then something he hadn't expected happened. The child tripped, falling hard against the edge of a table. A sharp cry pierced the silence. The sound jolted the billionaire's heart, but he forced himself to remain still, his eyes shut, his breathing measured. This was it, the moment that would reveal everything. What he heard next shattered the narrative he had built. The maid rushed forward, scooping the child into her arms with a tenderness that couldn't be faked. She whispered comfort, rocking the child gently as tears stained her uniform. She checked for bruises, for cuts, every movement filled with urgency and care, as if the child were her own flesh and blood. The billionaire's chest tightened. This wasn't greed, this wasn't betrayal, this was love. A love that defied the walls of the mansion, a love stronger than the suspicion he had carried like armor. He had set out to confirm his prejudice, to expose a flaw in the woman he distrusted. Instead, he had exposed himself. In that instant, he realized the test had never been about her. It was about him, his fear, his blindness. But even as the truth settled heavily on his chest, he couldn't move, couldn't speak. He stayed frozen, pretending to sleep, trapped in the weight of what he had witnessed, because deep down, he knew this moment wasn't just about his maid or his child. It was about the kind of man he had allowed himself to become. And the question that now echoed louder than his heartbeat was simple. What would he do with this truth? When the child finally settled, safe in the maid's arms, the billionaire could no longer deny what he had seen. The test he had designed to expose her had exposed him instead. His silence in that room was not strength, it was shame. For the first time, he saw the cruelty of his own suspicion. He had treated her not as a human being, but as a shadow, defined only by the color of her skin. Later, when he rose from his bed and faced her, he found himself at a loss for words. How could he apologize for the quiet trial he had forced upon her? How could he erase the years of unspoken prejudice she had endured within his walls? There was no simple answer. And yet he understood that acknowledging the truth was only the beginning. For the maid, nothing had changed outwardly. She would still rise early, still work tirelessly, still endure the weight of judgment. But deep down, she carried something he never could. A strength born from surviving a world that constantly questioned her worth. And the child? Too young to understand the layers of injustice in that house, but old enough to remember the comfort of the maid's embrace. Perhaps, in that small memory, a seed of compassion was planted, one that might grow into something better than the world his father had built. This story may feel like it belongs behind mansion doors, in the lives of the powerful. But it doesn't. It belongs everywhere. Because prejudice doesn't only live in billionaires, it lives in glances, in whispers, in assumptions we make without even realizing. So the question remains, how many more moments like this, quiet, unseen, unspoken, must happen before we choose to see each other for who we truly are? Like and subscribe.